We go to the opposite side of the spectrum with Dabo Swinney, who was still operating a decade ago before the boom of NIL and the transfer portal. Clemson is one of 4 schools that did not take a transfer player this spring. Those other 3 schools were service academies. But he's put in the classic Swinney spin on it, saying, we just signed a whole class of guys who will transfer in from high school. Brandon, how do you feel about this?
Well, he's been kind of on this train for a while and has been very public about it. And I spoke to him one-on-one at ACC spring meetings, and we discussed the portal a little bit. And he's really kind of sick of the narrative out there that, hey, Clemson stinks now. Since the transfer portal became a thing, they just haven't been as good as they have been. And he shared some really interesting comments, and I'll read one here. There's a lot of storms around college football right now, but we're kind of anchored, and it's not that we're not affected, he said, but we don't get washed out to sea and swim for our lives. We're fortunate because we've been established and we've been consistent for a long, long time. We're still about the same things we were 16 years ago. And I think that is the hook there that you just mentioned, is that they haven't really changed their ways very much over the years at Clemson, but college football has changed. And in that 3-year span that the portal has become a thing, and so is NIL, Clemson hasn't been to the playoff. They've struggled. They won less than 10 games for the first time in more than a decade at Clemson this past season. But they've been real close to getting back into the playoff conversation. And as he told me, he goes, listen, we made the college football playoff 6 straight years. We won the national championship twice in a 3-year span. We've been close to getting back to that. And he said this is another quote. He goes, there's been a perception, a narrative that gets drummed up that we stink. We're no good because we didn't make a Final Four. We made it 6 years in a row. It's hard. 30 wins in 3 years. We've won the league. It's all good. It's all part of your journey. I think he's very frustrated with hearing all this talk out there. And also, let's remember this about Dabo Swinney. He's been criticized in the past for other practices in his recruiting philosophy, doing things that no one else does. Right now, it's not taking any kids out of the transfer portal, which might end up being hurtful here. We'll see. But remember, he's also a guy that does not do any official visits in the spring and summer. And they were getting a lot of questions about that, like why you don't do it, why not change your ways? Recruiting's the lifeblood of a program. And he says, well, we feel good about the type of kids we bring in. We bring in a different type of kid. And with this, he's sticking with that. He believes that they want players that come in from high school, they stay there, and they develop. And he also mentioned to me, the proof is in the pudding there because we have the highest graduation success rate in all of college football and one of the best rates over the last 20 years. He says we're not going to go away from that. We're bringing kids into the program. We're going to develop them, and that's how we're going to win college football games. And he believes that they are going to get over that quote-unquote hump and get back to the college football playoff sooner than later. But Dabo, I think, the one we're seeing today, a little bit frustrated with hearing all this outside talk. Let me run my program is the way he's saying all this, and the proof will be in the pudding in the coming years. We'll see. I think they got to start showing the signs of that this year because 3 straight years that have been under their expectations have coincided with the transfer portal. They got to buck that trend and do it now.
You can definitely understand his frustration, but the best coaches have adapted, so we'll see how he does so. 2 other coaches needing to adapt this year. You spoke with them. Rhett Lashley entering his 3rd year with SMU, but first year in the ACC, and then Manny Diaz taking over Duke after making Penn State one of the best defenses in the country. What did you learn from your conversations with them?
Yeah, SMU is fascinating to me because, listen, this is a athletic department that's pretty much bought its way into being a Power 4 school now by joining the ACC, by giving away their revenue shares over the next 7 years. And that's a program that has such great money and finances around it that the NIL program is fantastic. And with that, they've been able to go get some great depth through the transfer portal. They brought in 20 kids this offseason. Most of them, I think all but one, were Power 4 school kids. 13 of those 20 are offensive or defensive linemen. They are building themselves to be bigger and stronger in the trenches compared to what they were in the group of 5. They're playing big boy ball now. It's going to be fascinating. You saw the schools that joined the Big 12, for example, last year, and none of them were able to break over 500. The best team won 6 games, but they lost 7 at UCF. Rhett Lashley does not want his program to be one of those stories where they go from an 11-win season last year in the All-American Conference to below 500 in the ACC. Their schedule's very interesting. Their very first ACC home game is against Florida State, the defending conference champions. Talk about a gigantic, amazing scene we're going to see in Dallas. But he feels like they have built the type of depth they need, especially in the trenches, through the transfer portal. We'll see this upcoming fall. I can't wait to see it. And then Manny Diaz going into his first year at Duke, back into the ACC after what happened at Miami. He's got some really good pieces left over from the Mike Elko era. And he was telling me that they really kind of bring different types of kids there that really value getting a degree in that Duke University type of education. He wants that offense to continue to be kind of more wide open. They want to throw the ball. He says, we're going to be the type of Steve Spurrier teams you've seen in the past, where we're throwing the ball, spreading it out, playing an exciting brand of football to attract kids there at Duke. It could be a little bit of growing pains this year for them. They lose Riley Leonard to Notre Dame in the transfer portal, but Manny Diaz, he's going to have that defense ready. We know that. Penn State, in just his 1 year there, had that thing up in the top 5 quality. Everywhere he goes, the defense improves. Duke probably going to lean a little bit more on that this season.
He'll play his former school, Miami, November 2nd. Now, this time last year, Brandon, we had the Magnificent Seven. The drama this time, not so much, but we're still trying to piece together the Florida, Clemson, ACC marriage. Is that going to last? What did you learn at the annual meetings?
I think that it seems inevitable that Florida State and or Clemson are going to leave the ACC, and it's just a matter of time when the legal process runs itself out. The ACC is just going to do everything it can to not settle this lawsuit or lawsuits out of court. They're going to try and let this thing go on. But as people have been telling us at 24/7 Sports and again at the ACC spring meetings on Background that, listen, we're just kind of running out of ground ball here. We're waiting to see what all happens. And unless the ACC just suddenly conjures up a bunch of extra money to give to Florida State or Clemson, I don't think that's going to save the conference from losing 2 of their blue bloods. But Florida State has been especially aggressive, as we know. Michael Alford, their athletics director, has been very front and center on all this, talking to the media publicly about all of this. He did reiterate, listen, we've never said we want to leave the conference, but listen, actions are speaking louder than words. The Board of Trustees have said as much. One trustee saying back in August, give us an exit plan here within the next year. And guess what? August 2024 is right on the calendar, and we're speeding toward that direction with all those lawsuits going on. Is this salvageable? Jim Phillips, the commissioner, was asked that. So was Michael Alford. They're optimistic on the ACC side, but again, it just seems like the clock's ticking toward the inevitable, and the inevitable is Florida State and Clemson leaving and going shopping for new conferences.
All right, potential chaos on the way. And by the way, Marcello has a great article explaining all of it over on cbssports.com if you want to read more. Thanks, Brandon. And for more on the spring meetings, off-season news, and look-aheads to fall camp, head over to 247sports.com and subscribe. Our team of reporters giving you exclusive information that you won't be able to find anywhere else. That's only on 247sports.com.